Hello! Happy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you're viewing this video. And we are traveling along the Belt Parkway. And we'll be entering the community of Park Slope, where I will tell you the story of the bobbed hair bandit. And there she is, married to her husband. The bobbed hair bandit. For this story to take place, as you could tell by the picture, it was quite some time ago. Over 100 years ago. 1920s. Her name was Celia Cooney. And like any other working class girls in the 1920s, Brooklyn that is, Celia Cooney had big dreams. Celia, she was 20 years old at this time of this picture. Newlywed, who toiled in a laundry. She and her husband, Ed, shared a furnished room on Madison Street in a neighborhood that was then called Bedford, which today is known as Bedford-Stuyvesant. And you can see it's a clear day here in Brooklyn. Seems like there's no traffic. A rarity, right? And straight up ahead, we're approaching the Verrazano Bridge, which, if you ever walk underneath it, which you're able to, or run beside it, it's a beautiful thing to experience. Let's just take a moment to look at that beautiful bridge, and we'll jump back to Celia's story. There's Celia. So we know that Celia and Ed, they were very much in love. But like many young couples, they had a bit of a hard time saving money. We could all relate, right? Early 20s, hardly any really real job experience. Try and find work. If you're able to find work, you're at the bottom of the barrel as far as income goes. But like many couples, they had a hard time saving money. You might argue, make little money, it's hard saving money. Because everything goes out, for bills and groceries and entertainment and movies and whatnot, right? Ed, he didn't make much money as a welder. And Celia enjoyed nice things. Like this seal skin fur coat, for example, that Ed had bought for her. Some short time later, Celia had found out that she was pregnant. And another mouth to feed, another body coming. And the Cooneys decided that they needed to shore up their finances. They needed more money, right? They need to tighten things up. They need to have money to support the baby, to buy formula and diapers and send it to school, and just money aside for future college and education and all that good stuff, right? So what would they do? Well, maybe stop spending frivolously, right? Or try to maybe stay home during the weekends as opposed to going out, right? Nope, not that idea. There was a different idea. And what they did is they wanted to commit armed robbery. Oh boy. And that's actually the genesis of where the bobbed haired bandit came from for Celia, which she was dubbed by the press. So it was Cecilia and her husband that this couple, and you could see how back then 1920s looked like in Park Slope, which is where the Coonies would be based out of, and where a significant event would happen in the Coonies' lives. We're approaching that that part of the story. This is how it looked like back then. A lot of the brownstones, which we'll be driving in this video, it's still there. Some of these brownstones have been around for years and years and years and years. Some remodeled, but it's still brownstones in this area. So the couple, so it's not just Celia, but Ed as well. The couple, they would stage holdups of Brooklyn groceries and drugstores. And during this time, they became so notorious, they became known, kind of dubbed as the Roaring Twenties tabloid icons. Now, their first robbery was a Ralston's. Now, Ralston's is a grocery chain in Park Slope. That is what we are approaching, and I'll point that out to you. But this is modern-day Brooklyn, obviously, as you see in this video. So that was their first. It was a Ralston's, which is no longer around here in the New York area. But on the evening of January 5th, the two drove to the store on 7th Avenue and 7th Street, which is where we are headed in this video. Wearing her fur coat, Celia went in first. She asked for a dozen eggs. And as the clerk readied her purchase, Ed had then entered into the store. Celia then pulled an automatic out of her pocket. She pointed it at the clerk and yelled, "Stick him up, quick!" Just as the bad guys and the detective stories and novels that she would often read would say. She said the same thing. Ed then whipped out a gun in each hand and cleaned out the cash register. The two took off with more than $600. Now we're talking, remember, 1920s, $600. That's a lot. The next day, the brazen heist made by a slight 5-foot woman and her male partner, they made the news in the Brooklyn Eagle with the headline, "Woman with a Gun." Celia and Ed, they went on to commit several more robberies. The newspapers giddily wrote up each hit, making much of Celia's bobbed hair. They were infatuated with Celia's hair, which was it was a daring style considered back then, popular with flappers and other women who saw themselves as modern and liberated. Now, Ed, he was just dubbed as her tall male companion. But all eyes and focus were on Celia. After the first robbery, the couple immediately rented a two-story house on 1099 Pacific, which is where we will be going as well. They bought pricey furniture. Cecilia made her husband a special dinner of a porterhouse steak. How about that? Congratulations. You know, living the life, Robin. $600. Living the high life. But they, just as before, they had quickly spent their money. They were supposed to save, but they spent it all. And they had to commit more robberies to keep up their higher-end lifestyle. So now, with so much tabloid exposure, the police were under pressure to capture them. That led cops to arrest and charge a 23-year-old bobbed-haired Brooklyn actress named Helen Quigley for the crimes. Angry that the police had arrested an innocent young woman, Celia left a note for them after she and Ed robbed a Clinton Hill drugstore. That's also in Brooklyn. And here we are where the Ralston supermarket would have been located. And these are some of Ralston's prices. The note was addressed to the dirty fish peddling bums and ordered them to let Helen Quigley go, which eventually the police did. Celia and Ed's stick-up spree finally ended in early spring after a warehouse worker at the National Biscuit Company, here we go, this is where the supermarket was located, probably I imagine at this corner here by the light, just before the light. So they were caught up after a warehouse worker at the National Biscuit Company was wounded during a holdup. Panicked, the couple fled, leaving behind $8,000 in an open safe. A warehouse employee recognized Ed from the neighborhood, and the couple was soon identified. By then, they had taken off for Florida, where Celia gave birth to her daughter on April 12th, who sadly died days later. After the couple was arrested and brought back to New York, they pled guilty and landed 10 to 20 years in prison. Paroled after 7 years, the couple went on to have 2 sons, finally free and reunited with their lawyer above in the picture that you will see. Ed died of tuberculosis in 1936. And as for Celia, she reportedly was a selfless mother working to support her boys, one of whom became a deacon in the Roman Catholic Church. It was not until a few years later, before she died in 1992, that her middle-aged sons had learned about their mom's trials and tribulations. This is where the house would have been located, no longer stands there. So all this time, just soon before the mother passed away in 1992, did their sons learn about her mom? Imagine that. What a story. Let me listen. It is not just justifying what this couple did. Sometimes it could be the different ways of going about, getting help. But living in a big city like this, especially, it is very expensive and things could get very, very costly. But nonetheless, the story of Celia Cruz and her husband, story of over 100 years ago. I hope all is well. Please do subscribe to my channel And I look forward to speaking to you guys in the next video. Hope all is well. Ciao.